Hey, beautiful soul family. Welcome to Eringy. I am Erin, and welcome to your energy forecast for November. So we're going to commune with spirit and connect with what we as a collective are going to very likely experience, what we're ready to release, what we're ready to surrender. And yeah, it's kind of like an all-rounded energy reading that is really going to assist you in navigating this month as best as you possibly can. So go grab a pen and paper just so you can just jot your own insights, your intuitive wisdom, and then we'll get started. All right, beautiful souls. So we're doing it a little bit differently today. We're going to be doing our spiritual connection outside. It is such a beautiful, beautiful morning here. Still a little bit chilly, but it's got that beautiful air about it where you just know it's going to turn out to be like quite a warm day today. So very excited about that. Okay, so last month, October, was all about gratitude, about you really being a lot more aware about the big and the small things to be super appreciative of, super grateful for. It was also a chance for you to express yourself creatively. So let's sort of see what this month is going to bring, considering that the energy does sort of flow into one another. All right, so here we go. The theme for the month of November is, beautiful, solitude. Okay. Do you know, I'm very much feeling like this month is quite a kind of month. And I know that sometimes you just don't have words to express yourself. Sometimes just by me going, I'm sure you know what that means. I feel like obviously this month, or not this month, but this entire year, because we're coming to the end of 2023, this year has really been pretty full on emotionally speaking. So not a great deal has changed so much in the material sense, but certainly the emotional sense. And it really feels time this month to just sort of decompress, and really find solitude. So that's our theme for this month. Beautiful. Of course, this doesn't always mean that just be sort of sitting there and doing nothing. However, sometimes that's necessary. But solitude is also about that time to be processing the stages, the phases, the things that have happened to you throughout the year, processing all of that and taking things from that and finding like the nugget, the gift in that as well. So those things that really have been quite challenging, which may have felt super sucky at the time, certainly can bring some goodness into your life, some kind of gift. So the solitude is, yes, about resting, yes, about taking some time out, but it's also about what do you do with that time? You can rest, but you can also process, also decompress. Awesome. So let's find out, where are you currently, because that's ultimately going to affect everything else in this reading. Okay, the waiting game. All right, the waiting game. Okay, try not to be too tempted to take on board anything new this month. And it's a funny thing because I don't feel like it was that long ago that Spirit said that in another reading a few months back. They're sort of saying things do take time, things need to realign. And because you have changed your path quite substantially, we've got to sort of, there's got to be a bit of a catch up with that as well. So that catch up is necessary. Let me just sort of sit with this for a second. It still certainly ties in very much with this sense of solitude. So this month, if you've got some things kind of coming into your life, or some ideas that you've been thinking about and you really want to put them into practice, can I suggest that maybe hold off on those things for this month? Okay, so what they're saying is that things need to be processed first before you can start something new. So you can't leave unfinished business. There's still things that you are required to unpack here before you can move on to this new venture that you're sort of seeking. And this is also an opportunity for you to decide if this new venture is for you or not as well. So yeah, that's where you are currently. So maybe you're feeling a little indecisive, or maybe you're sort of sitting on the fence going, oh, I don't know. I've got this idea. I want this, this new opportunity has come into my life, and I'm just not sure if I should sort of take that on board. Perhaps use this time in the moment to just take a step back for a second and don't jump into it too quickly. How that may sort of affect you. So we're sort of, what's kind of getting in the way of that is, okay, your throat chakra. The energy of the throat chakra, that's about communication, effective communication, and communicating your truth. So your truth is the unbiased version of you. The truth is the non-ego aspect of yourself. The truth is your higher self. Okay. So I'm just going to tune in and sort of see how these two interrelate. It's like you know what I'm telling you right now. It's like you've already, like, I almost feel like I'm confirming what you already know, and you've been hearing this as well. So you've been processing that through this energy center of the throat chakra. And there is still an element of you that's got that doubt about whether or not what you're hearing is actually something worth listening to. Okay, so this can be like an internal dialogue as well. Sometimes thoughts can pop up that are very random and you're like, where did that come from? And oftentimes that can be higher self communicating to you. This can also be what you hear in the outside world. So some signs from the universe that are telling you to just take a step back for a second, halt what you're doing, just pause and breathe. Okay, so pause and breathe is essentially what they're saying. So that is the what's affecting you is the discord. It's the not sure whether to listen or whether to ignore it, or what's higher self communicating to me and what's my ego communicating to me. Okay, so that's sort of where you're at the moment. How do you know? How do you know what's your higher self? What's your ego? Okay, so the simple thing with that kind of that question is, higher self is subtle. Higher self is simple, doesn't overcomplicate things. Higher self is to the point, and it just comes from this place of love. So it doesn't put you down, it doesn't criticize you, it doesn't judge you, it doesn't offend you, all of those things. It just doesn't do those things. Higher self is just pure consciousness of love. Okay, so if you feel like it's coming from a loving place, it's very, very likely your higher self. But if it's coming from this other aspect where it's pulling you down into negativity and stress and worry and anxiety, that's not your higher self. Okay? Awesome. All right. So this is where you're at. Very nice. What are you ready to surrender to? Now, this particular part of the reading, we're changing things up a little bit. I have been offering full moon and new moon guidance readings on top of this. And it's funny. It's actually really quite funny where I sort of say about changing plans and stuff. I'm still not sure if I'm going to continue to do those readings. This one, yes, we're going to continue doing those, but the full moon, new moon ones, I'm just not sure. So the reason why I'm telling you that is that this particular part of the reading is super, super beneficial if you love working with the full moon. Full moon is that time of celebration. It's also a time to release and surrender all those things that no longer serve you, all those things that you're just kind of done with. Okay, so I'm telling you this in case I don't do a full moon reading. You can use this particular part of this reading to work with during this month's full moon. Okay, awesome. All right, so this is what you're willing to surrender to. Okay, so I've drawn the financial and material changes card. Okay, gorgeous. This is what I want to say to you. Your fuel, okay, your drive, your why, your motivation must come from your heart. Okay, so when you are seeking to change your life, right? And, you know, there's always a reason. Like we change because we have a reason to change. It just doesn't, you know, we just don't do it randomly. That reason must come from this heart space rather than fear. Okay, and rather than thinking that you're not good enough already. Okay, so material financial changes, to surrender to that. I'm feeling like that's part of your motivation to change things up. And I'm feeling like maybe that isn't the best, most healthy way of being motivated. If your soul motivation revolves around financial gain, pardon me, often the financial gain trickles down into you want that because there is something you're lacking at the moment. So obviously lacking in finances. But going even further than that, when we are lacking in the finances side of things, we are feeling like a little unsafe, a little unsure, a little unsteady. And we don't know if we can provide for ourselves and perhaps for our family, for our loved ones, our friends. We don't know if we can do those things if we're not financially able. So Spirit is asking that the irony behind all of this is that when you fear something, that is what you're feeding. You feed the fear. And rather than kind of being open and going with the flow and just having faith and trust that abundance is yours, the fear kind of cancels that out. And so instead of feeling the abundance and the finances and all of that stability that you're seeking through the material things, you get the opposite of that. Okay, so this month, be very mindful about what your motivation is. Is it motivated by money and financial, material things? Or is it motivated by what you feel in your heart? What you love to do, what your passion is? You know, how you, the fuel must be greater than the need for material things. Yep. And we are, as a collective, we are growing from the material things as well. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but I don't like using the word upgrading. I hate that word because I almost feel like we're some kind of computer. Even downloading, I also hate that. What's another word for upgrade? Evolving. Yeah, we're evolving. We're entering a different phase in our lives, at a different way of living, and material things is just not as important. They are, okay, granted, they're necessary for our survival in a bodily sense, you know, like food, water, shelter, all of that. Yeah, I totally understand that part. But there is also, that used to be the main drive. Yeah, that used to be the main drive, and it's not anymore. So if you're still feeling like that's the main drive, and you're kind of finding it hard to imagine being motivated by anything else but the material things, can I suggest working with the full moon this month? And during the lunar cycle, or during that lunar phase rather, ask that feminine energy to help you release the fear around your security, your safety. Okay, that's really, really important. Okay, so that's what we're surrendering to. We're just allowing ourselves to just be free of being motivated by the material stuff. Okay, so if that's what you're going to surrender to, let's look at what you're going to embrace. Okay, so again, if you're into like the new moon, full moon rituals, what you're going to embrace is part of this new moon, as well as the theme, solitude. So what you are going to bring into your existence during this month and during the new moon is, of course, finding solitude and processing and decompressing. Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear that plane, so I apologize. I don't know how sensitive my microphone is, and that's the thing when you're outside, it's just I almost feel like I have to talk a little quieter as well because I don't want to disturb nature. Okay, anyway, what you're willing to embrace is recognition and reward. Recognition and reward. And again, it's got this energy behind it where you're just, during this time where you are finding stillness and solitude and you're just sort of taking a break from the world, right? During that time, you're also going to be celebrating and taking stock of how far you've come. This is so important because you know what? It's so exhausting when you commit to a self-love, self-care journey. It really is, because a lot of that can be super messy and it's painful and it's jarring and it's it's not always, it doesn't always feel good. So we get really caught up in doing all of that and working out things within ourselves, the kinks, the limiting beliefs, the ego, all of that, and it gets quite draining if we're not going to practice the opposite and celebrate your accomplishments and the rewards that you really, really deserve, like you actually accepting rewards. I'm also feeling like this is an opportunity for you to embrace help as well. Outside help. It's okay if you feel like you can't do it alone, and you're not expected to either. And this can show up in a physical sense through relationships that you have, and it's also about our beautiful spiritual support team who are always here. Like, they are always on board. Like, they're like, we're ready to go. They're always here. So just be mindful that you do have that support around you, and that it's okay to just, it's okay to celebrate you. It really is. You should be doing it more often. Most definitely, you really should. You should just be cheering yourself on and just knowing that you are doing the best damn job you possibly can, and it's amazing. Alrighty, so that's my gratitude for you, and I hope that you can take that and actually, like, truly take that. Not just sort of push it aside and go, oh, Erin doesn't know what she's talking about. All right? Okay, so if that's what you are embracing, let's see what you are going to potentially achieve and accomplish this month. Ooh, nice. Temptation. This is so good. Wow. We are constantly being tested. We pretty much on a daily basis we get tested, and it's not through the universe trying to be like super mean or bullying us or anything. It really is just to allow us to grow and learn. So, we get things that come into our life, like maybe a bit of a curveball, and it's a little like the universe kind of watching and sort of thinking, oh, I wonder what they're going to do with that. How are they going to manage that particular challenge? How are they going to grow from that? Okay, so this month something's going to come into your bubble, your universal bubble, and it's going to test you. And there's going to be a bit of temptation there. comes back to this whole thing of financial and material changes, this card here, where I said that this is what you're willing to surrender. So it's linked to that, actually. Potential for things to change for you on a material sense, but it doesn't necessarily align with where your heart wants to be. Okay, so of course there's going to be temptation, because you're going to look at that opportunity and think to yourself, that's a pretty good chance for me to see more of this, more financial and material changes. But you have a choice, obviously. And of course, with the readings, all readings that I do, always comes down to free will. So this is based on you deciding to not go for it. You deciding to follow your heart more and listen to that more. So you deciding to be more throat chakra aware. So expressing your truth, but also being open to hearing it, being a lot more discerning of that. Okay, so you will be tempted, but at the end of the day, your heart will win. Okay, that's really important. I can't tell you what the effects will be if you take this opportunity and you just run with it. I have no idea. But the purpose of this is to try to help you stay in your path, to help you stay aligned with your truth, and to not be swayed by what other people want of you, or by what society as a whole wants of you. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about certain society type groups that certainly like to put their own version of what you have, of how you should be living. Put that pressure. So I'd love to talk about more about that, but we won't go there. However, you are doing great, and you have a really healthy, steady, strong heart that even if this sort of thing gets thrown at you and you are kind of tempted, at the end of the day, you've got that resilience and that belief in yourself enough to just say no. Okay, so that's a big thing. Like, it's huge. We sort of talk about this as more like a surfacey thing, but it's quite a massive achievement for you. Like, it really is. And again, we come back to the celebration of that. That really does need to be celebrated. So, oh yeah. Alrighty, so what are we looking at now? We what to avoid. That's right. Okay, so what to avoid. Okay, obstacles and challenges. Avoid the obstacles and challenges. It's not possible, unfortunately. Okay, so avoid the fear of that challenge. Avoid the fear of getting it wrong. And it's not really avoiding it. You know, that sort of that book or that story, it's like, you know, you can't go over it, you can't go under it, you got to go through it. Yeah, it's like that, these obstacles and challenges. So it's a little more with this whole temptation thing about what society is requesting of you, or what you are feeling pressure within yourself. Okay, so, you know, you are very likely going to see that as a challenge or some kind of block that's kind of getting in your way of moving forward. That challenge and that block isn't showing up because it's trying to stop you from progressing, or it's trying to sway you in a different direction. It's actually showing up to ensure that you are really serious about this, to make sure that you are very willing to do the work to get through this. Okay, so they're essentially saying try not to avoid the thinking that an obstacle that's going to come through in this month is something that is you know, too challenging for you, that you can't figure it out, or you can't face it, or you can't get through it, because they know full well that you absolutely can, and it's just going to feel a little bit sucky at the time. And ultimately, this is why you do need to practice. Like, the overarching theme of all of these cards, besides this one, because that's the main one, is solitude. This is why solitude is your theme for November, because that's going to be your, I don't want to say safe zone, but that's the very thing that you'll come back to when you are experiencing this, because you do need that time of decompression. You do need that time of reflection. Okay, it's really the only way that you can grow. Okay, so be mindful of that. The challenges that come through for November aren't there to serve in a way to stop you from doing what you're wanting to do. It's really more of a test. Is that the right word though? Opportunity. They're saying it's an opportunity. I don't know about that. It's so easy for them. Sometimes, you know what, just on a totally side note, sometimes when I do these readings and I'm hearing them say things, and sometimes I just sort of feel like sort of saying, yeah, but you're not here. You know, you don't have to physically go through this stuff. So it's so easy for you to say, see a challenge and see it as an opportunity rather than a barrier. So easy because you're not here. But you know, they do understand, and I think they're very understanding because they know potential that can arise from this. Okay, so they're coming from that loving space, even though it can be a pain in the ass sometimes. Okay, so that is what keeping this, you know, in your mind, in your notes, to keep referring to the obstacles and challenges is what to avoid. Okay, so it's not the actual challenges and obstacles to avoid, it's the thinking that you can't get through it. Is what they're encouraging for you to avoid. Just don't entertain that part, just keep going forward. Alrighty, so let's summarize what's their lasting, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Their lasting message comes from the major arcana of balance. Okay, so balance, I kind of do liken balance to solitude as well, because that's, I don't know about you, but that is often the time where I feel where I'm gaining balance by just sort of, you know, taking some time away from life and just sort of being very present and mindful of my situation. So yeah, balance. This is what they're sort of saying that you're striving towards. So balance has been quite, this particular card has shown up quite often actually throughout this year. So it's a significant energy. And I remember at one point I was saying to you that balance is like a bit of a sliding scale. So balance is often never achieved where we have a scale that's even on either side. Okay, so you know where they sort of say have a work-life balance. Sometimes you just can't achieve that steadiness. Sometimes there's going to be a little bit more work, and sometimes there's going to be a little bit more life. Okay, but as long as the scale is sliding and moving up and down, essentially that's what balance is. Not so much about maintaining a steadiness. Okay, so just be aware of that. So sometimes it might feel like you are out of control or thinking a lot about one thing and disregarding everything else, but you'll have your chance to think about those things and do those things as well. Okay, so you are finding balance, it's just looking a little differently to probably how you're sort of thinking it should look. Alrighty, so oh, that was a big gust of wind. I've got these doors just behind you, and I've propped it up with one of my kids' buggy things. So it's just all moving around a lot. Oh, that's funny. Anyway, that was totally unrelated to my energy reading for you. Okay, let's just sort of see if there's anything else that nature and the universe want to provide to us. I love how this wind has just kind of come up. Use nature. Okay, yeah. Use nature as your way of finding balance and your way of finding solitude. Nature is the most effective, most powerful healer that you can ever experience. There is nothing more healing, in my opinion, and you've got to try this. There's nothing more healing than going outside barefoot, standing on just the earth, so not concrete, actual grass or dirt or rocks, something really earthy, and just standing in your power and feeling the air on your skin and the warmth of the sun or the coolness of the breeze, all of those things, that is what's going to ground you down, root down into the present moment. And that's where you'll find answers and wisdom to your higher self. It's the most effective way. So that to me is balance. So it might be different for you, but I really feel like, our body has come from earth. So it makes sense that we tend to that in that way. Alrighty, my love. So we are at the completion of November's monthly energy forecast. So I really hope you've enjoyed this one. I hope that you've been able to really find some deep insights that are a little more personal to you. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because it really gives me this like a heads up that what I'm doing is needed and wanted. So there's that. But also for you, it means that when I do put some more videos like this and yoga and meditation videos up, you will be notified of that, which is, how can that be a bad thing? So sort of building a nice, beautiful Eringy tribe. All right, so subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that yet. Give me a thumbs up if you really enjoyed this reading, or even leave a comment. It's always really nice to sort of have, it's not the same as us, physically being here, but certainly, having a little comment here and there is quite nice as well. So sending you so much love. Have a beautiful, beautiful November. Remember, it's all about solitude and stillness and balance and just, processing and decompressing. All right. Sending you so much love. Namaste.